Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Fantasy Fullback Dive, brought to you by the good people at the Roto Street Journal, paving your way to fantasy glory, acting as your lead blocker, fantasy excellence, fantasy trophies. Man, they're coming soon. We got less than a week until opening day. I'm your host, Nad the Truth Jones. With me, as always, the Wolf of Roto Street himself at like 10:30 in the morning on a weekday, talking about ourselves. Our favorite
the selfish
thing.
pricks we are.
Yeah, right. The narcissist edition of the fantasy fullback.
The goal is hopefully by talking about ourselves, it will, of course, help you. And what we're going to be talking about, as the truth's alluding to, is our auction drafts. We had a great auction show. A lot of people wrote in. It was one of their favorite auction shows they've ever watched. Awesome. So appreciative of the nice reviews. And I really loved it, too. I did think it was a great strategy show. If you haven't seen that one, I would highly recommend you go back to whatever podcast or YouTube, wherever you're tuned in, episode and just get a crash course on that episode. It was phenomenal. But we do want to kind of go through. We got a few DMs. How are your auction drafts going? What do the teams look like? Why not pull up our teams? Because nobody likes to hear about your own fantasy team more than us. So we'll talk about our teams, how the drafts went, kind of the lessons we learned. I think a good structure for it could kind of just be, I'll pull mine in as we're talking truth, just going pick by pick and just kind of, this is who went first, second, third, how much they went, because it's so different in an auction. And we'll kind of go over that, why Nick Chubb went second in my league. I nominated him, and I wanted to see how it went, and all that good stuff. We also had a user submit their auction draft as well. Obviously, we'll never be able to hit every single user submission, but feel free to reach out at Roto Street Wolf if you do want us to review yours. We might be able to get it on air, do some team grades, all that good stuff. Yeah, that's what we're going for. Did I miss anything, Truth?
You didn't miss anything. I'm wondering if I can figure out how to make it so you can see what order the people in mine went, because I have them by team and I have some memory of what order they went, but I don't not 100% sure. I could just tell you.
So I pulled mine up, and as you can see, there's like a number. So we'll say number 3.
I got
that means he went third. So
in my mind, I was like, oh, that's their jersey number, because
it's too bad ESPN,
some of them are 3-digit numbers.
No, it's too bad ESPN does it this way, because on Yahoo, we could have just pulled it up and it just shows the exact order. So we'll have to bounce around a little bit. And ultimately, like after the first 20 or so, we might just want to like look at teams and grade and whatnot as we go. But I mean,
an auction. And by the way, we should point out that it's considered un-PC to call it an auction now. These are all salary cap leagues.
Caps.
To me, it's always an auction. By the way, before we get into this, I have a suggestion. It might even just be like an order, not even a suggestion.
Yes.
But we have said that we're going to do an RSJ auction next year, right?
Yes.
I think that we should hire an actual auctioneer.
Well, so
to like really like get
Taylor,
us like fired up.
Our video guy from Arkansas, his family does auctions, so maybe we can fly out Taylor and his family.
Oh God,
that would be,
because I mean, you know how you can get in a back and forth with somebody like online on a computer.
It's so different though,
and then in person, if there's like some guy egging you on, that's an actual auctioneer. I just think I think
it's the best. If you've never done an actual live in-person auction, and listeners, truth, it is the most fun. I still to this day, the most fun I've ever had in a draft was over at my place in Salem. Chris Bushy, shout out to you, the auctioneer, got completely hammered during the draft, as he should. He's just counting numbers for us while we go, and it made it like that much more of a live. That was the one where Des Bryant like got nominated. Right. And he's like, "Come on, going once, going twice," egging the crowd. The rush of a live, true in person. Obviously, on a computer, it's great, but you can't beat a live auctioneer just kind of berating you as you draft. It's phenomenal.
All right, I'm planting the seeds early. We got a year.
I love it. It's perfect.
Right.
Well, Wolfpack, as we jump in, that thumbs up does help us continue to grow, get out to more people. Looks like there are a handful. We just kind of were like, let's toss it together. I had school off today. Let's get it going. You show some action results because last one was a hit. Hopefully, this is as helpful as that. So starting in mind, Jonathan Taylor was the first nomination. That typically seems to be the case just because he's the first name, first one. Yep. Gets the money flowing. Was he the first in yours as well? We'll pull yours up in a sec too, True.
I'm gonna say no.
Yeah.
I mean,
we'll look through.
He was one of the first few, definitely.
Yeah.
But I know Taylor, I think in mine went for either 75 or $77.
Yeah, 72 here. So actually not that expensive relative to yours. And I think 72 is typically what you should expect to pay for them. I'm not going to pay that. I'd rather hit that like 55 to 60, maybe 65 being the limit. I would go for my number one guy if I'm getting an Eckler, McCaffrey, if you really wanted to go back. Not for me, though. I had number 2. And so I nominated Nick Chubb, a guy that I know I don't want. And it worked perfectly. He went for $50, which is about
that's insane.
More. I know. And I'm bashing Chubb here, like the best runner in the league. I understand that, but $50 is, Stephon Diggs, like Saquon Barkley. He went for $5 more than DeAndre Swift. So right away that establishes, and this is kind of like the early nomination flow. So I'll pull up a quick banner. We'll talk about like getting into the auction. You want to get a sense of how the money's going to be going early on, because it really is almost only 2 scenarios. They're either just flying, wallets are open, and we're just trying to go and get a team started. This was also the first year this league did an auction. So a lot of times if you're your first year going in, expect for people to just be like, ooh, let's toss some money. I have my other big one coming up. Maybe I'll even live stream it on Tuesday. That we've been doing it for years, so it could be a whole different thing. So, one, are you new to auctions? Are you not? Two, it could also be the opposite, where everyone's nervous to throw in the money. So it's interesting in that sense. The tight buttholes, I like to call it. Either way, that's going to change how you nominate, how you go and approach your players. And if you find yourself some of those tight ones, I almost always say try to get in the action as heavy and hard as you can, like 3 studs right away. Because we'll show you a draft later. My boys over from Tufts did a draft, and they had a tight start, and then everybody was paying like $20 for Renfro and Thielen. Whereas if the money's flying early, eventually everyone just doesn't have the money. And I got Renfro for $5 in mine compared to where he went for like 20 something in this other league. So just a general side. I'm not going to pause on every player like this, but that's kind of one nomination strategy that worked really well. Is I don't love Chubb. Somebody that could get hot and get bidding, it absolutely worked out here. Cook went next for 63. Fair price. Bell cows, did you notice that truth? Like bell cows are just going to kind of go in that low 60s, like mid phase.
When you and I talked earlier and you shared some of your build strategies and your possible builds and stuff, I said to you at the time, I suspected that you weren't going to be able to get 2 running backs for what you had it penciled in for on your builds. And at least in my auction, I ended up being right about that. Like, like Cook and Kamara for 100. I was just like, nah, that's going to be more like 120 probably to get those 2 guys. And that is about what it was. On ours, the money was flying early. What's really, really important to remember, and this might just seem really obvious, but in the heat of the moment, it often doesn't to some of these guys. If the money's flowing early, just remember there's a finite amount of money. So at some point, things are going to stop being expensive. And that's pretty much what happened in my draft. Stuff started very expensive, although it was much more expensive on running backs than receivers. The big receivers went for plenty, but not for as high as they were expected to go for on ESPN. For instance, Jamar Chase, I'd seen him go for in the high 60s, stuff like that on some of the things. I think he went for 59. And I believe he was actually the guy I nominated. I was the second person. I nominated Jamar Chase. I was just trying to suck tons of people's money out. I love him, but I knew I was not going to be spending $50-$60 on a receiver. And so I got $59 off the board by putting him out second. And by the way, Jonathan Taylor was the first person in my draft. I was wrong. He was $78.
Well, Chase is a great one. He went 12th, like nomination in ours, $65. So, that's a great talking point. Absolutely blew it. I will say this too. While we were on number 3, Dalvin Cook, look at this team. He went Cook, Kamara, Mixon, 63, 56, 53. And I don't even hate it because look at the receivers. Not even the end of the world. Allen Lazard and Ayuk. We only start 2 receivers in this league. Plus
the corpse of Kenny Golladay and the corpse of Julio Jones.
Yeah, a couple of corpses on the bench. He could have done better. But, I mean, you look at some of the dollar receivers. If he had plucked a few of those a little bit better, man, that team is already really good with those 3. So it just goes to show you that Cook, Kamara, Mixon is actually possible in auction league. Just another push for how damn good they are. But you'll see some of these prices. I'm not going to – I guess going pick by pick is pretty tricky because, I don't even know where they went. But Cooper Kupp, 67. Money was absolutely flying is kind of the big takeaway. Christian McCaffrey at 5 for $71, one less than them. So money was flying. I didn't even end up picking up my first player. You can kind of see here. Leonard
Oh,
Fournette,
and you had
45.
said that you got a little panicky. I see what you're talking about. So it was 13 players in. You hadn't gotten anyone. Obviously, some horses were off the board. And so that's why you ended up unexpectedly springing on Lenny.
Exactly. And normally I probably wouldn't have paid more than 40 for Lenny. I think I have him right around 38 is my auction value for him. But I was like, I need a horse. And there's only so many left. And it seemed to me like nobody was going to end up being available for under $50. So I saw Lenny for under 50. It's like, okay. So it's truly, I don't think anybody had gone under 50 in the first 12 nominations. So it's like, okay, I snuck in a deal. That also ended up being one of my regrets in the sense that I know Aaron Jones and DeAndre Swift. I forget what teams ended up with them, but they got nominated even later. I don't know where they are at the moment.
DeAndre's right there on after the Jefferson pick.
$43. Yeah. So less than Lenny. Aaron Jones might have been, I think, even less, $41, right? So it's that tricky balance. And obviously you can sit here and nitpick it all day. You never know how it's going to end up flowing, given how the money was going there. But I don't end up hating Lenny at that price, given what was happening before him. It's just tough to know. I could have had Swift for less money. I could have had Aaron Jones for less money. And I would have been in love with my team. But you can see Eckler, the 21st person on the board, 63, $8 less than McCaffrey. And I have him actually ahead of McCaffrey. So money did start to, slow down. But it is that tricky balance too, because I got lucky. Kamar only went for 63. In that sense, you can get left in the dust. So that's kind of knowing how to play it. You can then see how this auction just started to flow where there are tons of values. Bateman, I've seen go as high as 20. I got him for 4. Harris, 3. Renfro, 5. Like there was just no money left at the end of this. So $4 to $5 would get you some of these mid-range guys. A couple teams in here that did try to save their money and capitalize kind of got screwed. They ended up being left with about $10 in their wallet because they didn't have to pay up. They controlled the draft in the middle round. Sure. Nice. Good for you. But they ended up having extra money because they didn't have to spend nearly as much because we all had blown our loads.
Did you spend every dime?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Me too.
Ever since that one draft where I left $8 on the table that I still have night sweats about, I spent every single dollar. Unfortunately, one of my, I guess we're kind of getting out of order here, but Brian Robinson was my big bench acquisition. And it wasn't 2 minutes later that the tweet came out. The only reason we're able to chuckle was because we know he's okay. He's going to be fine. But like to pay up for my big bench acquisition and have a tweet come out, Brian Robinson's been shot. I was like, holy shit! Like how, what the hell? Like how of all the, it's one thing if you like tore something, to be shot, you're just like, what? Just mind numbing stuff. But yeah, so that was the early flow of mine. Was just heavy money. 68 for Henry. Like that was a clear telltale sign at number 4 that money was not going to be an issue for early drafters. I got Eckler for $5 cheaper than Henry. Yes, please. I would take that. So that's how mine, like kind of the early seeds were set. What about you, Truth? Why don't we, I'll remove mine and you can kind of talk about how yours started.
Yeah, I'm interested for you to see some of these teams on mine. Yeah. I mean, so is the, big names nominated early, some kind of mindlessly. There's one team that was just sitting forever with like $140, like, getting like, 20 some picks, 23 picks into the draft. And it's a little bit, it's tough because, I always like to keep track of how many teams out there have bigger stacks than me, especially early, mid in the draft, who could conceivably get this from me. If I just decided I want this and they decided they wanted it more, who could get it? And there were always one or two guys that just had the big stacks. And you're right. They ended up with tons of money at the end. They ended up, leaving money on the table. One guy ended up, it is stupid. One guy ended up spending $11 on 2 kickers, which I shared with you on one of the previous podcasts, which is not anybody's finest moment.
Well, Truth, can I pause for 1 second? That brings up a really good point. If you're drafting on ESPN Yahoo, like on a computer auction, they have a tool where you can click and see max bid. And that's so big to keep pulling up throughout the draft. Right. So
absolutely
who can outbid you at any given point, especially when it gets to like the $3 to $5 range. And you're like, the max anybody can bid is $4 or $5. It's good to know who those people are and try to get them to bite on somebody that you don't want. And that way, somebody will hopefully keep falling. And then finally you're the max bidder. But yeah, so if you're doing that, if not, we have that great tool from Jackson Barrett on the website there that allows you to kind of enter prices as they go, and it will keep track of everything for you if you're doing a live in-person one. Good thing to do anyway. But I just want to toss that out there.
You're right. I do. I check that out all the time. I probably looked at it 40 times during my auction. My salary cap. But I mean, there was like I had a maximum bid at one point of like $8 or something, which is decent once you get into the draft a bit. And there'd be like everyone would kind of be around me, and then this one guy's like maximum bid 56 or something, and I'm just like,
don't be that guy though. Like you said, he left money on the table. It's like great, you control the middle rounds, but the middle tier talent is all you're going to be plucking. Nice, you have a balanced lineup. You have a bench stacked with $10 guys, but fuck it, that's useless. Like,
and he's the guy that went all in. He's the guy I was like hoping maybe I can snag Damian Pierce for like a few dollars at the end. But then this guy and another guy who had a huge stack just got in a bidding war for him, and he got him for like 18. I know he's gone a lot higher than 18 in a lot of other drafts.
Right, because this was a couple weeks ago. He's probably going for 20 now, but back then that was when he was like a $4 nomination. So that's another great point. It's like there's always going to be a couple people saving up, and that happened in ours too, where like money flew around and a couple people somewhat wisely waited. They got Aaron Jones and Swift, those teams, for pretty cheap. But then they started just constantly being in bidding wars when the sexy middle round names came up, like Gabe Davis goes for like 27 or 26. Even though I had just caught Allen Robinson a little bit earlier for like 14. I love Gabe Davis. You know how much we love Gabe Davis. He shouldn't be going $13 more than Allen Robinson because two people, that's how it probably went in yours too, Truth, is there's always somebody. We're all like, all right, sitting there. When's Gabe Davis coming? I hope other people are blowing money till he gets there and I actually have a shot. And then you're kind of missing out on Mooney for 5, Marquise Brown for 6 is what happened in mine. Like, I'm like, I don't want these guys, even though these prices are great, I still want to have enough to be in the Davis ring. And you ultimately kind of miss on some people. Did that happen to you as well?
Yeah, I mean, I waited for Gabe Davis, and I really was supposed to get him. And then this one guy, he's a kid. We're old enough now where there are 2 guys in the league with me whose kids are in the league also.
Oh, nice.
Wow. One of their kids was just sitting on a ton of money for no reason and outbid me on Davis, and then throws up in the comments like, well, I had to blow money on somebody. And I was like, shit. Like, you know, he's just
kid.
Yeah, no, right. Exactly.
That's the worst. But that's what happens. That's what happens. All righty. Why don't you continue to tell us like how the money was flowing, how the draft went?
Well, like I said, you know, I don't know if you can scroll up or down on
I don't have your window, so only you can kind of
I do that on the actual window?
Yeah, you go to the window and do that.
I got you.
Dads
look
and
at
technology,
this. Technology's crazy.
Nothing
Also,
bad.
I'm
Nothing like
enjoying
dads
looking
and
at
figuring out technology.
I'm also enjoying looking that the team Huge Erections was just featured in the middle of the, the screen for just like a really long time. Yeah, Trump's insurrectionists. Yeah, we got some solid
names
here
in there for sure.
Anyway, if you look at me, I ended up with Lenny Fournette also. He was also the first player I took.
Isn't that
crazy?
Wild?
It's crazy. Neither one of us.
We both like him. Neither of us love him, yet we ended up with him on both teams.
If you had said going into our auctions, what are the chances that both you and the Wolf not only end up with Lenny Fournette, but both spend your first money of the night on Lenny Fournette? I would have said 0.
0%.
No chance. Right.
Right.
And yet we both landed him. And you can see I landed him for $39. It was purely a price thing. Like you said, these guys are going so high. It's like, man, I can't pass up on Lenny at $39, right? And so I did. And I got him. And then I got Kamara later for 61. I don't know. You can see my team. My team was up. My team's the Village Video new releases right there. That's my squad and the order I got him. I also was never really planning on getting Kyle Pitts, and I just like he was there, and I was just like, people love Kyle Pitts. I'm taking him. Well, so I ended up with a very different build than what I was expecting to have.
I think Kyle Pitts is a great one to bring up, and that kind of we can just talk about tight ends in general. I'm going to remove yours for a second, bring mine back in because I didn't go into the mindset I was going to get Kelsey. But $35 for a fringe first rounder. I mean, you saw what the other fringe first rounders were going for, 68, 70. I don't have him quite in the tier of those bell cows, but I also don't have him $25 cheaper. So I hit 35 thinking it was going to keep going the way money was going, and bam, I have him. You look later at Kyle Pitts. he ended up going for, I think, like 29, 30, 31, $4 less than Travis Kelce. I think Kelce sneaky is one of those picks in auctions that's like, I don't want to blow my money on the tight end position. So he always ends up going, like, he could have got probably every draft I've ever done, he goes for like 40, 45-ish, and he should probably be going in the $50 range. So already he's kind of going to be a discount. It's made me think I might have to start targeting Kelce more in these. But the fact that like he went for only 4 more than Pitts, could Pitts outscore him in the perfect scenario? Sure. But Kelce, year in and year out, is just the number one tight end for 7 straight years, other than Mark Andrews last year, who I think also went for 35. So like
Andrews went for 27 in mine, and it was the difference between Kelce and Andrews. I'd be interested to know what the difference between Kelce and Andrews was in yours,
because both went $35. I got him for 35. Andrews went 35.
Okay, so in mine, Kelce went for 45, and Andrews went for 27.
So I mean, that's a huge that gap is way too big, and I don't even.
Of course, it is
25, but Andrews for $20 cheaper. Pitts for $6 cheaper than that now too. Pitts and Andrews like at those price ranges make a lot of sense, and I like getting that tight end edge. I mean, I didn't go into it thinking I was gonna. We looked at all our blueprints, and I think I had one where I had Pitts at like 25, and I was like, oh, that's the highest I'll go at tight end. And then sure enough, when a value comes out, you can do all these blueprints, you can do all these plans, and then you have to start to readjust on the fly. And I didn't. I really like what ended up coming out there. Why don't we just review it? We can't do every single team, I guess.
You want to know what's fun is like I also like I said, I wasn't planning on getting Pitts. I wasn't planning on having like a big time tight end, if in fact he ends up being a big time tight end. But once you get him, you just all of a sudden have such swagger about you. You know what I mean?
Locker room, baby.
Right. It's like I wasn't planning on getting Josh Allen, nor did I. But if I had somehow ended up with him, I'd have just been like strutting around like I own the place. Like once you get somebody like that on your team, you just start like it's such a big dick move.
That's a great segue, Truth, because Justin Herbert, I think, has that same exact like type of swagger to your locker room, to your opponents. And I got him for $12 there. Josh Allen went for 26. I don't even hate Josh Allen at 26, but to get Justin Herbert, my number 2 by a runaway, for $12. I've only done 2 drafts like of my main league so far. I have Herbert in both of them. Got Herbert like
here's a takeaway from my auction. And I don't know if this is just a sign of the times or what, but quarterbacks went more expensive than they had in the past. Usually it's like a few go for a few bucks and then it's like $1 or $2. There were a lot of guys, 6, 7 quarterbacks deep going for $10 or more.
Yeah. So mine was the opposite. Like I paid up technically for Herbert, but I think $12 for the number 2 quarterback is a steal. I wonder how much how much did Herbert go in yours?
21.
Yeah, that's about right. And I won't pay, over 15 for a QB more often than not. Again, I usually go in that $3 to $5 bucket and pluck Brady or Dak or whoever it is. And those guys did go in that $3 to $5 range. But at $12 for Herbert, I absolutely love that. When you do Jackson has that great tool where you toss my projections into the tool. It tells you how much someone's worth. Allen and Herbert, and even in just single QB leagues, based on my projections, and I'm very bullish on both. I think I have Herbert going for near like 5K and 45 to 50 touchdowns. He should be worth, I think, $30 according to the projections I have. Maybe even more than like 38.
Wow.
I'll never pay that for a quarterback, but to get $26 off of what my projections tell me he's worth, I'm all about that. And by the way, I guess we probably should have started with this. If you want those values, you want my personal auction values, all that, it is in the draft guide. It's
in the guide.
In the guide, updated as of last night, sent out a new update. And that's the benefit of the online guide, is we can keep coming out with new ones. 9-1 update just sent out this morning to everybody. So if you want to get in on that action, rotostreetjournal.com/draft-guide, rotostreetjournal.com/draft-guide is the site. It'll get you everything you need to dominate your auctions, your regular drafts. Everything is great on there. The reviews have been coming in. It is so appreciated, all the great feedback we're getting, because it did take a lot of time. Makes it so worth it when all you guys are loving it so far. And great way to support the site if you haven't already. Would be so appreciated to check that out. Let's continue on.
A lot of chatter in the comments, by the way, about spending up for tight end. Saying like, I'd never spend $30 for a tight end or whatever. And one guy, fake Lapocati said, I've never seen someone who has an elite tight end win a chip. I won two titles with Gronk.
I was going to say almost all, I can remember all my title teams, almost all of them had a really good tight end edge. It's one of the biggest edges you can get in fantasy, given it's, and I was going to say it's like closing a little bit, but not really. I think the best description of tight ends was Scott Barrett, who describes it as the quote unquote oligarch tight ends. Like they are just so much above everybody. 2, maybe 3 guys. If Pitts has oligarch potential, but other than that, it's Kelsey and it's Andrews, and they're giving you low-end wide receiver 1 numbers at a position that most are praying for a touchdown. Yeah. And I think in auctions, you can get them for cheaper than they could because this comment shows it's not really sexy. Nobody wants to have tons of money burned into the tight end position. And if I don't get one of those oligarchs, I'm going for the dollar. I'm going for Everett. I'm going for, Hayden Hurst. I'm going to punt it if I don't get one of those big 3. But I think it's a huge edge, especially if you trust your ability in an auction to find those $1 guys when it becomes a snake better than your opponents. And I do trust my ability. I know I trust your ability. I trust anybody's ability with the draft guide. But it's just like
the great equalizer.
Those huge edges. Like I said, it wasn't my plan to pay up at quarterback or tight end, but the prices were just too good. You adjust on the fly. And look at the receivers I got. This is why I think you can do it, especially if the money's flying out early. Now, we'll pull up a tight butthole draft start. I don't know why I came up with that as the way to describe it. But, hey, you can see, though, Renfro for 5, Godwin for 10, Robinson for 14, Bateman for 4. I just think there's, especially if you only start 2 receivers. If you start 3, it's a little dicier plus a flex. But when you can get some really, really good values. All these guys, Palmer, Sky Moore. I don't know if I love him, but
I don't know if I love Sky Moore either.
$1 for all those guys, I'm all about it. So, we could go through all these teams. Pickens ended up going for $1, which really pissed me off because I thought
me too. And it was when I only had $1. I couldn't bid on him. Pickens went for $1.
I was so mad, and I only had $1, but I was nervous to nominate him because I was sure somebody else would bid him up, and he did. Yeah, you can see that Tua for $1, like a great value there on this Cooper Cup team. There were a lot of good teams throughout this auction, but again, you can see some great values compared to the other drafts I've seen because of how heavy the spending was early on.
Antonio Gibson, $3. That might end up being a pretty good pickup.
Of course, and I got Brian Robinson for the same price. Again, that happened before the awful news that broke that night. You can see that Darnell Mooney, $5. Brandon Ayuk was $4. I feel like those guys I've consistently seen going way too cheap in these auctions. How much did Ayuk and Mooney go for you?
So I actually tried to get Ayuk, and I thought I was going to get him. I thought he's under the radar. Nobody's going to notice. But I think he actually went for around 10.
Yeah.
And I got outbid for him, which I think he's worth. I just didn't have the money.
Yeah, he's absolutely worth that. Thielen, I think, was 8. And so there's those guys that just, Woods for $2. He'll probably see 120 targets this year. So that's why I don't mind. We're going to get into overall strategy here, but I don't mind paying up for a tight end the way it shook out because there are really good receivers. I still think the best pocket is if and when you can get a Robinson for 14, if Gabe Davis, who's projected to go for 9, goes for 15. That's what I love to make my money on. I know St. Brown went for 13. I had 12 max at that point, and I was so pissed. I had him for 12. The 3, 2, 1, think. Yeah, then it goes up again. You're just like, no.
Oh, the worst is when you're down to a second and you're going to get him, and you start being really excited, and then somebody just swoops in and drives it up, and you can't keep going.
Oh, it's the worst. It's such a heartbreaker, but I also love doing that to people too. So,
when I'm bidding, and this is the type of you can say types of people at an auction. I'm this guy, which is I when I'm bidding back and forth, I always let the clock go down to 1 or 2 seconds before I bid.
Yeah,
I was just and then people start doing it to me too, as a fuck you kind of. But I like making them think they're about to get what they want and then snatching it from their jaws.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. It's such a fun strategy. See this team, Mike Williams for 19, Davis for 17, still a good value. That's what I like to do at receiver. This was before Sony Michel was released, but even still, Chase Edmonds at $9 is just an absolute steal. I think he's been getting a lot of positive buzz, so I'd be shocked to see him go under 20. It kind of balances out like Eli Mitchell at 21. That's a disgusting overprice.
21, huh?
Yeah, disgusting. more than Gabe Davis, Mike Williams, and Chase Edmonds. But at the end of the day, he did get some good values there as well.
He's also got the nice Hurts AJ Brown stack.
A beautiful stack, yeah. Hurts for $6. What a steal. Like, great price there. Quarterbacks in general were very, very cheap in this league. So
I got Hurts for 11. I got Hurts for 11.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
And I felt it was a pretty good deal. I decided that I wanted a guy with the Konami. And, and so I had about 3 guys that I was looking at. Once he came up, I jumped on him, and I felt good about it. I got to say.
Yeah. I'll pull yours up here, Truth. Who are some of the ones I was just kind of highlighting some of the picks?
Right,
Brown for 13, Robinson for 14. Who are some of the best values you saw or worst overpriced?
Well, I mean, here's my team up here in the middle. I'll show you. And so I got Godwin for 12. I got Mike Thomas for 12.
I got him for 10.
I got Alan Lazard for 6, which is good because Godwin might be hurt. I got Brandon Cooks for 11. I love that pick.
Love that.
Robinson, I got bid up by somebody who listens to this podcast, and I said I had to spend 21 for him, but I was committed to getting him at that point. I was not going to be outbid. So I got Robinson to round out my receiving core. Now, Lazard, I didn't mean to even bid 6 on. I hit the button by accident, and that's why I ended up with no money at the end of the draft. Now, I do really like Lazard. I mean, I like him as a player, but that's what made it so I had a max bid of 1 for like the second half of the draft, which I did not love, and that made me not be able to go after some guys I really wanted. Some other guys that I thought were some extremely good value. It seemed like Breece Hall was a good value, but now it seems like he's not even going to start on the Jets.
Yeah.
so there's no real good value for him there.
How much did Henderson go to the left? Is that $2 I see?
$2.
That's a steal. I mean, that's
I was going to say steal. And not only that guy, he's been dropped and picked up since in my league.
What?
Yeah.
Did you not bid on him?
I didn't know he was dropped. I didn't think there was any way anybody would drop that guy.
That's an absolute steal. $2 was a steal, and on the waiver wire, free is even better.
Well, I mean, so a couple of things. Full disclosure, I thought that Sony Michel got picked up by the Rams, and he in fact got picked up by the Chargers. But that that wouldn't have affected it because I mean, honestly, I wasn't going to drop anybody for him.
Yeah.
But still, I can't believe somebody dropped him. I mean, if I had him on my team, he'd have stayed there. You look at some other good deals. Chase Edmonds for $8, I think, was an excellent deal. Right, obviously. Nick Chubb in my league only went for 35. CeeDee Lamb for 38. That could end up being a really good deal.
He went 55 in mine.
55? Yeah. 38 in ours.
38's a great price for Lamb, yeah.
So look at this team here. Debo and Diggs and Hopkins at receiver. And if you look at the prices on Debo and Diggs, not too bad, huh?
Not horrible. Right over next to that.
39 and 41.
Saquon Barkley under 30. Is that what I see?
Yeah, 28. This guy got Zeke, Aaron Jones, and Saquon for a total of $104.
That is nuts. And the fact that Zeke was the most expensive of them at 40.
Yeah, right.
Which nuts. That probably goes to show the early spending versus the middle rounds and waiting and how that ended up paying off.
Well, right. You look, he didn't get anyone until the 20th pick. Then Mike Evans for 29. Also, a pretty nice pickup.
Yeah,
then he
St.
ended
Brown
up also
ended up
with him. He got him on Ross St. Brown. Yeah, that's
Pollard for 5.
Pollard for 5. Chris Olave. He got some good pickups there. So he's got
they did well. That team did really well.
Yeah, I'm hoping he's not listening to this because I don't want him to know I'm saying anything nice about him.
You suck, Joe. No.
Right. So then you had the opposite, which is this guy comes out blazing, Jonathan Taylor for $78. Then he fills in at wide receiver, Pittman and Allen, 25-31. Okay. Then he overspends for Joe Burrow like crazy. $18 for Joe Burrow.
He got bailed out by Javonte, though. 29. Yeah, that's a gross overpay. I shouldn't ignore that. Terrible overpay. But bailed out by getting Javonte Williams. So terrible overpay on Joe Burrow. It looks like your league, the mid-range RB, the RB2s, the high-end RB2s. I shouldn't say mid-range, the late second-round guys of Javonte, of Aaron Jones went too cheap, of Saquon, especially under, those guys going around $30 is a steal because they should all be going around 45. It's just so tricky. You obviously don't know going into the draft that would be the pocket of value, but man, if you could have left with Saquon, Aaron Jones, and Javonte all for under 30, you've hit your $100 mark and you now have 3 high-end RB2s. That could be a great field. you just wouldn't have known. So that's maybe you toss out one of those RB2s early, but you saw Zeke go for 40. So it's like, that's why auctions are the best and the worst. You can always second guess everything.
Well, if you look at the team on the far left and then the team on the far right here, on the left, we got in the first, this is all in the first 14 picks. These two teams got 6 players. Cup for 63, Eckler for 70, DeAndre Swift for 46, right out of the chute. McCaffrey on the other side for 64, Devontae Adams for 60, Kelsey for 45. So both these teams had spent like $170 within like the first 10 minutes of the draft, which is, they're out at that point,
Right.
I mean, very top
we'll
heavy.
Get some beers, settle on it, and just enjoy the show the rest of the way.
And I mean, and you can see it's a little obscured by our pictures here at the bottom, but the guy on the far left, I mean, he ended up with Daniel Jones as his quarterback. So
terrible.
Right.
Yeah.
Terrible. It's terrible.
And that's like as you said, money was flying around in yours as it was in mine. That's not a good time to be 3 of the first 8 people off the board type of thing. That's when the teams that were sitting and waiting and getting Jones and Javonte and those guys ended up panning out really big for them. The opposite was true. And I'm trying to 1 second, I'm going to stop mine and pull up this other one just to kind of show you, like, both of ours had really hot starts. There's another one though, from the listeners again, that just was not hot at all. They started pretty slow. That's when you might want to have 3 of the first 15 people off the board. So you can see like C-Mac for 61. That's already less than what he normally goes for. Saquon 42. I mean, more than what he went for in yours, but at the top of the draft, that's a nice price. I have him right around 50. Lenny for 32. Okay, so players are going pretty cheap. Cup under 60. Dalvin under 50, 60. That you don't see that in auctions. So this is where I would have, like, even Jonathan Taylor at 65, anything under 70, you can kind of tell. Adams, like, people are going too cheap in this draft right now. This is where you'd want to get in on the action. Like, Kamara 53, Eckler 56. That's an absolutely mind-numbingly cheap price. These receivers, like, they're not like insanely too cheap, but clearly everybody, like, you see the trend in this league, everybody's going for about $5 to $6 less, other than the big overpay here on Mahomes at 16. Everybody's going for far less than they should be. This is where you want to change up your strategy and start nominating the players you want and just going and getting them. Rather than if money's flying, that's when you want to nominate, like I did Nick Chubb, and have somebody overpay, get wallet spent on the guys you don't want. But man, even Jefferson under 60, like, this is one Truth, where you would want to just get the wallet open early and just start to load up on free stud.
Yeah, this is why it's important to note. You got to see where the auction's going, like the way it is, because if stuff's just legitimately going super cheap, you buy it. Like buy the guys you want. You're still gonna have money. Yeah, somebody's gonna big stack you at the end, but I mean, if you can actually load up your roster with, like, that's like the dream scenario for me. I can load up on like 3 or 4 of the guys that I really want and still have like a bunch of money left over. Yeah, spend it. Like, some people just don't spend on principle. They're like, I never buy anything in the first third of the auction because I'm just going to sit there and wait and buy my time. It's like, well, that's dumb. Like, what if, like,
I'm going to pick up on the trends. I'm going to see what's
Right. What if
there's a balance. It's good to see what the trends are, and but you also want to jump in when you can only take so long before it becomes like a very big detriment to sit and wait. 100%.
No, some people just are like, I'm not going to spend. And they're not even like, it doesn't matter who the player is. That's crazy. You got to be flexible.
You got to be ready to go. Another strategy I do always like, you can see here, like one of the 23rd nomination was Younghoe Koo. Like, somebody always does it early. It's not a bad play though to toss out. I don't know if Koo would have been the one I go with, but
Tucker's always the one in our league.
Tucker's always, but somebody will always bid him up to 2, and it's like, I got you spend an extra $1 on a kicker, but he's probably worth it. I often will nominate Tucker at $2, and then if somebody pays 3, then you're an absolute idiot to pay 3 on a kicker. But yeah, Tucker, the classics out there. You know who I really like? I've realized at kicker this year, and that was on a kicker podcast. I'm going to love Brandon McManus playing with the thin altitude. We've seen him boot 60-yarders at Mile High, but now that offense is going to be immensely better. Yes, they'll score more touchdowns, and that's obviously negative, but I think there's going to be very few drives that they don't get into that 60-plus range for Brandon McManus. So I've decided I'm going all in on Brandon McManus as a kicker.
I'm always my kick. If I'm not getting like Justin Tucker or maybe McPherson falls in, I can't believe we're spending time talking about kickers. I like McPherson also, but other than that, my philosophy on kickers is I'm either picking Denver's kicker or I'm picking someone who kicks in a dome.
Yeah,
Those are always
Always
my
going.
strategies. Right.
Yeah, and I'll never pay more than the. And honestly, I guess we're getting close enough this season that this might not be as viable. But in any league, I don't have to draft a kicker to start. I never do. I will pick up an extra person, ideally someone that you might be able to slide into the IR, a Gallup. Now at this point, Brian Robinson, somebody that you can then free up that roster spot very easily for to see if there's any more cut days. As an example, I drafted in another league. I took Jeff Wilson instead of taking a kicker. Trey Sermon gets cut the next day. JaMychal Hasty gets cut. And suddenly, obviously if I'm going to need a kicker, my Yahoo grade goes down because I don't have all the projected points going out to the season. But I don't care. I now have the clear-cut number 2 running back for that. So I would just continue to plug. I wouldn't draft a kicker. I would say this, though, especially in auction, I don't mind taking a defense when you know the week 1 matchups really well. I'd throw out like very early. So I'm going to pull yours back in there and we can kind of look at defenses. But I threw out like the Ravens because I know they're facing the Jets and Joe Flacco week 1. Now, maybe you get the Joe Flacco revenge game and he just goes berserk. I highly doubt it. I know San Fran faces who the hell is San Fran? I know Denver gets the Seahawks. There's going to be these teams that you know to pick on. The Seahawks. San Fran gets – who do they get week 1? I know it's a great matchup.
One of those really bad teams. I don't remember.
Probably the Giants.
I was going to say the Seahawks, but I don't know if I'm right.
Seahawks or Denver. But I do like sneaking in particular if your wallet's kind of drained and you're out of that max bidding range. It's a good spot in the middle of the drafts to kind of sneak in those dollar defenses, those dollar kickers, while you let other people start throwing money around and hope a few people will now land and fall to where you can buy them again. I don't mind doing that at all, the early defense and kicker strategy.
Yeah. Justin Tucker went for 6 in our league because there's one guy in our league who's just a maniac and he's insane.
Yeah.
And he also had a bunch of money and we're looking for something to spend it on.
Stupid.
So here's another great value you can see in my league. Ramondre Stevenson, $3.
Oh, sickening. Too good.
Right. That is sickening. Right.
That is absurd. I had Ayuk for 4 in mine. Sickening.
Russell Gage for $2, I think is a great deal.
It's fine. Yeah, absolutely. Mooney was great in both of ours under $5. This is kind of those unsexy players that people want. Tight ends in general, like Goddard, $1 in this one. Dawson Knox, 2. So as much as I did like getting Kelsey for 35, seeing those kind of hurt a little bit in the nuts. Jahan Dotson, 1. Like every auction ends up becoming a snake. And so if you have a better grasp of those late round guys and everybody's maxed out and just becomes nomination guy off the board, that's when you can really, really make your money in these. That's why I promote the stars and scrubs, because everybody at some point is going to get in that position.
Yeah. And anyway, so that about wraps it up on my auction. I mean, you can see this guy here on the right ended up with Breece Hall and Clyde Edwards-Helaire as his starting running backs, which I just hate. I just absolutely hate it. I
see also a disgusting overpriced with that team sucks. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Worst team of the draft, most likely.
That's the guy who upbid me on Gabe Davis. It really frustrated me.
I'm working on a kid right now. Yeah, I hate it though. Cooper at 14. Like you showed me Amon-Ra St. Brown at 12. I think Cooper's about, if you're doing a snake, maybe 6 round of separation there. I hate Cooper. I have him around like 10. Whereas I have St. Brown like early round 5, like late round 4. So yeah,
$26 for Pat Mahomes.
So yeah, easy nominations. This might give you guys some ideas for who to nominate. Like Amari Cooper, definitely a nomination if money's flying. Mahomes is always going to get buzzy. Mahomes went from like $8 more than Herbert in mine. So that's a great way to like nominate Mahomes and slide Herbert in right after. Let everybody blow the money on them and bam. I'm all about it. I'll pull this one in one more time. Hold on. Here we go. The spreadsheet. Just to kind of show you guys what ended up happening in the middle. So, also Mixon ended up going for like 58, 57, which was more than Alvin Kamara. So that's like the end of a tier kind of caution. It was, 54, whatnot. And then it became, okay, Mixon's the last remaining RB1. He goes for more than Harris and more. I like Mixon more than Harris, so I don't necessarily hate that. But, more than Kamara, more than Eckler, no, only a few bucks more for Jonathan Taylor. So that's where it started to get there. But now you're looking at the middle rounds here. where it's like Dameon Pierce, 26. My good God. Michael Pittman, 36. Kyle Pitts, 30, 39. So like the people were sitting there with money because of what was going on early in the draft. Money was not flying around. Renfro, 22. Jacobs, 27. I mean, that is just
this is a really interesting draft, actually.
You kind of see it. Deontay, 26. He was like 10 in mine. So if the money's not flying, you can kind of get a sense of the gross slug you're going to then find yourself in. Eli
Mitchell, 23.
Just terrible. And like, I love AJ Brown, but 41. Like, you know, you look at the early receivers, Diggs wasn't that much more than this. Paying up for quarterbacks, like Judy at 14 might actually end up being okay. Kittle 18, no thank you. I do like Sutton at 32. Herbert at 11. I love that price.
Hawkinson at 11.
Yeah, disgusting. I saw Waller went for 15 in here. Like, that's way better than Hawkinson at 11. Like, you know.
And then in the midst of all that spending, Ayuk goes for 6.
Exactly.
What's going on with that?
Harris for 12. Yeah, Ayuk for 6 is just laugh. This team in general did really well. Lafferty, Daniels, Allen Robinson 27. I love Allen Robinson. I think I probably have him listed as like worth 27. I haven't seen him go for more than $18 yet. So
21 he went in mine, but that's because someone actively bit me up.
They knew that's what you wanted, right?
St.
Brown 24. Like, again, probably the right price to pay for these guys. This is what they'll go
24 for Thielen.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. Thielen, 24. Jerk store. What are you thinking?
The jerk store.
The jerk store clearly selling terrible prices there. The jerk store. He might be even tuned in here. I know he watches every now and again. I love Edmonds at 14. So some takeaways we've also seen on these prices is Edmonds at 14. Like, that's even still great. He was 8 in mine, 9 in yours, or vice versa. I forget the exact split.
He was 8 in mine.
He continues to be a great buy. But yeah, Bateman at 18.
I got him for $4.
$4. I do love London at 6. Like, that's a nice buy right there.
Yeah.
London for cheaper than Knox, like, all day. I like Dillon for 17, but that's still a little pricey. You know, Marquise Brown's been a common, far too cheap guy. I'd say 6 in mine, 11 in this one. How much was Marquise Brown in yours?
He was around 11.
Love that. I mean, but I like 12 for Cooks. As you said, you got him for 11. 12 for Cooks, way more than that. You know, give me Cooks for 12. Eli Moore for
Cooks for 12, and then Eli Moore for 20 the next
clans.
Come on,
what are we doing, clans? Fucking terrible.
Brandon Cooks. Hey, I heard on a podcast the other day that there's like 3 guys that have had 1,000 yards in, I think it was 6 of the last 7 seasons.
Cooks is definitely in there.
It's Mike Evans. Somebody else really good. I don't remember who because I'm blanking right now, but Brandon Cooks.
Is it Allen Robinson? I know he had that one horrible year.
It's not Allen Robinson. It's like 2 super like elite guys, one of whom is Mike Evans, and then Brandon Cooks is the 3rd guy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Goddard at 12, he went for 1 in mine. I like Goddard, but not 12. And then especially when it's juxtaposed with the Fry going for 3, I'd rather have Goddard in a vacuum, but they're similar tiers for me. You know, this is a strange draft. Lazard for 17.
And now look, it's possible Lazard might end up being worth that. I've just not seen him go for anything.
They could end up paying that off.
Look, Ramondre for 6 right here.
Exactly. Like that's a great value. Love Ramondre for 6. Lazard, if he ends up being the number 1 clear-cut guy, probably worth 17, but not relative to some of these deals that we're seeing. McKenzie for 8 more than Pickens, like 8 for McKenzie. I love McKenzie, favorite sleeper of the year, but 8.
I love him at $1.
Exactly, that's what I got him for.
That's what I got him for too.
Strange, but then you sneak.
And then your price on Godwin's consistent with what he goes for everywhere.
I got him for 10. You got him 11. 11, like steal. Daddy Goose, nice pick there.
It's just a weird draft. I love it. It's so funny looking at somebody else's auction,
isn't it?
Like breaking it down. That's when you know we're just kind of sick.
Yeah,
it's just like we're just looking at someone else's auction,
ripping apart somebody
like,
else's auction.
That was a great deal. Oh, that was stupid.
Yeah, you fucking moron, clans. Right. Jerk store, fucking asshole. Right. I love it. I mean, that didn't have much structure, but we did talk about player prices we liked. We looked at some auction flow.
Also, got a lot of people were. I was like, "Who's going to watch us at 10:30 on a Friday?" As it turns out, quite a few people actually.
Well, you think we move to the mailbag here? No, you got to get running.
Yeah,
so
I got to get rolling.
Yeah.
But this was fun.
This was a blast.
There's definitely a lot of mailbag action. So
I love it. I'm going to dive in that mailbag with you guys. Truth, go get your son from the dentist or wherever he's at.
No, taking him to the dentist. I didn't drop him off at the dentist.
Okay,
he's a kid.
Yes.
Right. I'll see you guys later.
See you, Truth. I will hit this mailbag for you guys now. As we do, though, please consider hitting that thumbs up. I'm happy to pull the auction back up, too, if there's any specific players you want me to give you my take on, values they went for. If you want me to grade some teams, happy to do it, whatever is most helpful for you guys. But let's get in and see, a lot of people tuned in might be calling out their favorite values and stuff they saw. So let's see it. DJ Chark or KJ Hamler, keep up the good work. I, in a vacuum, like Chark more. If I had Russell at my quarterback, though, and I want to kind of stack the build, Hamler's got a ton of upside. But you can guarantee Chark's going to be the number 2. Even when Jameson comes back, he's looked like a stud in camp, all that good stuff. I should promote this, too, though, as we answer this. I saw CJ's comment here. If you want to call in, whether you want to come out in a video or you turn your camera off and just do a call. I'm going to answer questions for 30 minutes. I guarantee you I'll answer your question, though, if you call in or super chat. But, yeah, I'll do 30 minutes of questions. Should be able to get through the whole mailbag. But just in case, if not, feel free to call into the show. You'll guarantee I'll pull you up first. And if not, super chat always gets you a guaranteed answer. But back to yours, rushing yard. I do prefer Chark. He's lit it up in camp. Good talent, seems to be in the right spot. Hamler, obviously, the little bit of a higher ceiling when you got that much of a better quarterback. And if someone goes down in front of him, now you're talking about the number 2 for Russell Wilson, would be far more valuable. He just needs a few more things to happen. I do like them both, though. Good plays, but I go Chark in a vacuum. Oh, nice. Good rush, man. You done a live. Isn't it so much fun? Yeah, that's when the drinks really flow. I 100% agree, rush, man. JT for 74. I like it. That's what you're going to have to pay. I personally don't want to go up. But if you got him and Mixon, okay, so then you pulled it off. I'd be interested to know what the rest of the auction came up to be. So let me know. I have 12-team non-PPR, 1 QB, 1 running back, 2 receiver, 2 flex. I do like going 3 stars if it makes sense. You can never go in with a locked-in strategy, but certainly love going running back with Kamara still floating around round 2. If you're up towards the top of the draft, you're still looking at Javonte or Fournette up there. Maybe even Aaron Jones falls. I do definitely want 2 of my first 3 to be running backs, but I had a draft the other night where running backs just flew. I got Kupp in the first round, and then Javonte went to pick before me. There's nobody left. Fournette was already gone, and so I just kind of doubled down, Evans, and then I went Mark Andrews, and it just ended up being a 0 RB build. I don't love 0 RB builds. It was not my favorite team I've ever drafted by any means. I almost always feel better when I have 2 horses. But at the end of the day, you do have to let the draft fall to you. I could have forced in James Conner over Mark Andrews, but Mark Andrews, that huge tight end edge, I'm going to go that. You know what I mean? So I do like to go 3-star backs if it makes sense. It really depends, especially with the non-PPR settings, though, fake. Rushman, use a spreadsheet that calcs spending on the fly. I love it. Yeah, especially at a live auction. You need something like that because if you don't know what other people have left, that's the big thing. All right, what else do we got? Would PPR change your strategy? Yeah, definitely. Obviously, receivers get a huge boost up in PPR, so I don't need to have that trio RB core by any means. You could even start 4 great receivers. The thing, though, especially when we're talking about an auction, I think the value is on those mid, the 4 to 5th, that Robinsons, the Gabe Davises, the St. Browns, the $12 to $20 range. Those guys, I'd rather pay up at running back and then pluck those guys there. Dylan will outperform Jones. Not a bold statement at all. It is bold, yes, but I guess I should say not impossible by any means. I think that's a really interesting call, Rush, man. I love Dylan. If I'm getting a Packers back, I'm much more regularly landing Dylan these days than him. But I still like Aaron Jones. Great talent, great score. I'm not going to pass on him either if he's there late second. Got an auction coming up this Sunday. Think about Fournette, my RB1, Dylan RB2 after getting Kelsey. Mojo J, it's not a horrible strategy, but as I just showed, I had Fournette as my running back 2, Eckler as my running back 1, and Kelsey still. So I don't think you should go in saying I have to punt to Dylan and Fournette just to get Kelsey. You got to see how it all flows. Ayuk for 4, Bateman for 4, Marquise Brown 6. There's all these receiver deals. Cooks usually doesn't go more than 10. Godwin's won 10 in all 3 of the auctions we just looked at. I really think you can find value at wide receiver. Getting Kelsey +2, Fournette and another feasible back really is very viable. And I think it's a great way to go into it. Reminder, folks, that the guide is up. I'm just going to do one last pump for it. RoadStreetJournal.com/draft-guide. We help you out. You appreciate the content. Pay it forward and be so appreciated to continue to help the site. We've had great sales and great reviews so far. It's so humbling, so appreciated. I think it's the best guide. I wouldn't pump it as much as I do. I didn't think it was the best guide out there. So many people writing and saying it was. So check it on out if you haven't already. It has all my auction values, all my projections, and it's a round by round game plan over 100 pages. It's great stuff. I'm very, very, very proud of how it came out. Dylan, anything like, I agree 100%. Dylan, less than $10, you should be going for around 15. In that team I was just talking about where I had Evans, Andrews, I think I went Herbert round 4. So I didn't touch running backs till round 5. That terrifies me. I did go Dylan round 5, Tony Pollard round 7. A 0 RB build, Pollard and AJ Dillon is the guys that you have to go. The guys that could have that legit RB1 upside. Yeah, $14 for Robinson. So good. Brian Robinson, you're probably talking about. Yeah, $3 for him was a great buy. It's too bad, but much bigger concern is him and his health. I'll survive my $3 overbid on an auction for sure. No two. Let's hear what you did, how you did. I know you've checked out the guy in the past too. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the new one if you checked it out this year. Because I think you left feedback about making it more visually appealing. It was either you or Wes, our guy Wes, if you're listening. And you left some feedback about making it more appealing. I really tried to do that. I hope that it was helpful. Let's see how you did. Lance, Carr, great QBs. Najee, Cordarrelle, but Penny, Gibson, you'll find your RB2 out there with Najee as long as that foot's not a concern. I can see that being fine. I love Lamb there. It all depends on what you pay for these guys, but man, Lamb, Marquise, A-Rob. Oh, A-Rob, your 3. I would flip those. A-Rob's your 2, Marquise is your 3, but Lazard, any of Lazard or Marquise Brown are going to pan out. I'm so confident A-Rob being a beast. Well, top to bottom, nice and stacked note too. Like, not a clear position that's like you are the best at this position, but top to bottom, like players that make sense. Leaving money on the table is the most disgusting thing. I agree, Rush, man. Like, if you're going to do that, don't even do an auction. You're just disgusting. You're a loser. Which tight ends would you target in an auction if you pass up on Kelsey, Pitt, Goddard, Kittle, Andrews, Waller? I like that. I'm going for $1 at that point, right? Mojo's, you're talking about, my $1 punts. Hurst, Gerald Everett. Love Gerald Everett for $1. If you can get Knox snuck in there for a couple bucks, I think he represents like a big drop after him. But if you don't get Knox for like 3 or 4, I would be looking at $1 for any of those guys. Trying to think if there's any names at tight end. I really like Mo Alley Cox. Like he won't go for more than $1. He probably will be on your waiver wire. Logan Thomas will be on your waiver wire. Like him for $1. I mean, a lot of good upside there. Njoku's a great one, and Cole Kmet. Like I even see there's definitely some good punt tight ends out there. Kmet, so many sharp people in the industry like him, and I get the case. Like a tight end that's seen over 20% of the team's targets has never finished outside the top 8. And there's very few things in Cole Kmet's way of seeing 20%. All the reports, guys taking the next step. There's no more Jimmy Graham to eat his touchdowns. Good case. I'm avoiding Bears for the most part. I just don't want anything to do with them. But I get the case. Njoku is a guy I've recently really warmed up to. Dwayne McFarland, shout out him at PFF, has started to really put me on to him. Scott Barrett as well, because of 2 stats I've seen. One is he's participated in over 80% of the routes this preseason, like clear-cut bell cow, Kelsey Andrews type numbers. He's been phenomenal in terms of route participation with the first team. The only other time that we saw, what was I going to say? Him see over even 50% of the route participation. He saw 78%. He was the tight end 9 that year. And then Brissett, yeah, that's disgusting. I hate Brissett. He targeted tight ends at a 30% clip the last 3 years. He loves the position. Maybe the one guy to actually benefit from Brissett is Njoku. So, yeah, I like him for $1 or 2. So, as you can see, that was a bunch of names, Mojo J. I'd say my favorite 3 would probably be Gerald Everett, Njoku, and really late like Hurst or Mo Alley Cox. But you could probably get all these guys. Cole for $1. So, might as well just try to get like 2 or 3 of those 10 through 15 guys for $1. I'll tell you, do as many mocks. It's true. You got to have a game plan. I personally, and I show this, I would continue. If you've made it this far in this auction content, go back and catch the one where we did like a nice organized, show by show. I make an Excel spreadsheet, very simple, blue plan, $200 at minuses as I fill it in. And I just make like 8 different variations. Here's if I spend up big at 3 running backs. Here, if I have Kyle Pitts around 25 bucks. Here's if I actually did go in on Justin Jefferson and where I could potentially go from there. So yeah, I love as many blueprints as you can going into it. Mid-rounders ceiling price, exactly. You always will get a steal. Marquise Brown, $6. Darnell Mooney, $5 when they're listed at 15 type of thing. Unfortunately, the guys I love in those middle rounds, the guys I get in snakes all the time, Robinson, Gabe Davis, like those guys are just going to get buzzy. They are buzzy. And right there, perfect comment from Rushman. Someone's going to overspend on Gabe Davis. That's what happens. I don't know why you're hard fading him, though. I'm there. So, yeah, we talked about this one, Rushman, already. We kind of hit it. I had 35 on Kelsey. Like, I like it. We talked about the edge. I've won titles with Kelsey, elite tight end edge. Typically, it's happened when they've been like the round 5 guys, like Waller blows up at round 5. That's usually where I've made my money. But, man, I have no problem, again, how cheap receivers go as well. The guide, check out the guide. Herbert for 12. I'm there. I really I've never been a pay up at quarterback guy. I've gotten Herbert in both of my early drafts. That round 5 in a snake, that round 12 auction, he's gonna go berserk. There's Konami upside. Talk about this in the guide. There's like sneaky Konami upside there with him. He's a better athlete on paper in terms of his measurables than Josh Allen. What if he starts to run a bit more? Either way. It's just, I respect it too. That's why we the best thing is to not see eye to eye and just have smart people kind of disagreeing. That's the whole point. There's always gonna be those $1 wide receivers. Olave sometimes, Pickens again went for $1 in both of mine in the truce. So that stuff. Great call. How many Grahams are ever out there? None. Jimmy Graham Saint. There you go. That was a great one. So there aren't many, but there are still Kelsey. There's still Andrews. There's still Pitts. Those are the 3 I'll pay up for. I do think it's worth it. Isn't it? It's. I don't get why everybody should do an auction draft. Exactly for why you say here. The closest thing to being a real GM. You have every player at your disposal. Your build. It's amazing. Give me like Kamara and Cole over Elijah and Andrews. Yeah, I mean, yes, I agree 100%. Andrews goes for about $25-$30 cheaper in an auction than Kamara. In a snake, it's a little bit different. But we're talking I think Andrews should be about $15 cheaper than Kamara. He goes for like $20 cheaper than Kamara because everyone gets horny for the running backs, as I always am. I'm not trying to say you're bash running backs. I always want to have 2 studs at least. But I can get 2 studs and maybe sneak in Andrews at $25. That's fine with me. Absolutely. Hurts for 7. Great. Yep. There's always that one pick we're kicking ourselves for. Mine was ASB for 12. Wish I had just saved a little bit more up on it. Ayuk for 4 too. It's like, what are you doing? Bid. Get in there. Lazard, I don't know about bust. I mean, it could be Dubs, could be someone will be there. How was the disappointment? He had, to start the year, he was the number 5 running back for 6 straight weeks. Even that alone for a 6th, 7th round price, whatever it cost you, like he started you out hot. Did he fizzle out a little bit by the end once, he got hurt? Yeah, sure. That happens to a ton of running backs. He was a great value as the starter. And right now, Cam Akers has not been practicing in full. I like him for $2. I mean, I don't know, Rushman. We agree on a lot. We disagree on a bit too, which is what I like about this. Some of these guys went for, so I'm hoping that's helpful for you to see, Jason. Shout out any guys that you saw. You're like, oh, that's too much. Definitely in the spreadsheet, there were some guys that were just like awful. What's up, boys? Caught you live. Yeah, roster bay today. Haven't stopped by since my big draft. Love to hear what you came up with, Gary. But yeah, we were tugging off at our rosters here. I think both of us had some very good ones for our first 2 drafts. Dub's not a good call. He's saying don't have the preseason swag. It's an illusion. If you like, I don't mind paying $1 for Dubs. You can't start him. I'm with you there, but he has to beat out Sammy Watkins, Randall Cobb, or Lazard. He could be better than all 3 of them, like legitimately. So I have no issue with Dubs. 70 JT for 78. Yeah, I agree. Way too much. Beginning for 1. Yeah, exactly. Dubs for $1. Let him sit for a bit. And after 3 weeks, if he still isn't like even sniffing the lineup, okay, that's fine. 70 for Eckley. Yeah, I got him for 63. 39 is a great price. Jason Young. 40 for Zeke is way too much. That guy got bailed out by getting Saquon for 28. And Aaron Jones for like 35. He got bailed out. Like Zeke should go for 28. Saquon should go for 40 plus. So It ended up working out okay for him. But yeah, I 100% agree. Roger's gonna have to throw somebody. It's true. I wonder who it is, but yes, the backs. I agree with this rush man. I think Aaron Jones might lead this team in receptions. Dylan's not a bad. He's actually very capable. I think he might even have a higher PFF receiving grade than Aaron Jones last year. Very, very capable as well. 45 Kelsey a little bit. So you're shouting out some of the overprices. I like that. Yeah. So I'll let you guys continue to talk about dubs in there. I'm not gonna keep pulling that up. Taylor for 36, Donald. Woo! That is quite the keeper right there. And then you got McCaffrey, like the number 1-2 picks, bam, bam. And you probably had money to continue to build around them quite nicely too. So I'm there. I don't love Jerry Judy Riley. I like Cortland Sutton a whole lot more. That being said, Judy went for 14 in mine. That's a fair price for him. I'd rather have in that price range, Robinson, Gabe Davis, St. Brown, the names you guys continue to hear me say. Like, I'd love that to be my main three. But Judy's not a horrible play. I mean, the guy has had great routes throughout his career. He's had just no quarterback play. It could really take off, but I'm putting my money on Sutton there, even though I know he's a little more expensive. A lot of people are. Mike Will, wide receiver 1 over Keenan. I've heard that take before. I'm still sticking with Keenan, who's been top 12 for 6 straight years, over like 1,200 yards, 6 straight years, 90 catches, 6 straight. Like, it's just so dependable. I know the cliff will approach, and I know he's getting over there. He's getting up there. If it's one or the other, I am going Keenan. Mike Willie might go the next pick after for me, though. I love the guy, more the alpha. Number 1 receiver for the first 5 weeks, had that injury and then kind of fell off. I'll take the steadiness of Keenan for now. If at this time next year Mike Willie's going much, much earlier, wouldn't shock me at all. I really like the upside. So if you're skating to where the puck's going, I could see Mike Will being that guy, but not there yet. I'm not there yet. All right, guys, I'm going to take questions for about 10 more minutes. I don't know exactly how many more we have. These have been great, though. Awesome interaction. If there is like a must-hit question for you, do consider it. Even just $1 super chat. We'll bump it right up to the top. It notifies us when it comes in. And so I'll keep my eyes peeled. If it's like I'm drafting this weekend, I need to get this question in. I might be able to get to it anyways. We only have 10 more minutes. I should probably hit all this, but we'll see. Here are the backs I got in the auction for Rushman. JT, Mixon, Harris, Dillon. Oh, stable. An absolute stable. I love it. I mean, I don't have a single complaint. Like Gibson was a fade for me, but with Robinson now out, like he's going to be a steal. There's not a single bad back there. That's a very well-loaded stable right there. It's time to pawn Sanders off someone. I hate Sanders. I never would have had him anyway, so yeah, get rid of him. Fuck him. I hate Sanders. Even uglier now. Not because of Trey Sermon. He already sucked. No reason to have him. Yeah, auction drafts are the absolute best. I'm with you 100%. Every team comes out different. You always kind of see the similar builds and snakes. It's the best. How are you approaching the running back dead zone? So, Eric, just a couple, great question. A couple weeks ago, before the preseason games, I was kind of saying the dead zone's not dead anymore, baby. Zombies are all rising up. We've got guys like Zeke, Cam Akers, Breece Hall, 3-down rookie, just coming in here and giving you great values in rounds 4 to 5. J.K. Dobbins could end up being a steal in that range. The dead zone's here. It sucks. Zeke, I don't mind in that round 4 range. I still like him, even though he just lost his left tackle for probably the year. Hamstring torn off the bone. No thanks. But Zeke is the one guy I'm okay with in round 4. But I don't want to mess around just because I like the receivers, just like last year when it's not quite as pronounced when it was like Mike Davis versus Cooper Kupp. I mean, come on. But it is, now that Breece Hall is getting pummeled in a committee with Michael Carter and not looking good, 14 carries for 29 yards in the preseason. Talk a lot about if you want some preseason takeaways, that was the last podcast, last live stream me and Truth did. Highly, highly recommend it for any drafts you have coming up this weekend. Great way to do a crash course on everything you may have missed in the preseason. Definitely recommend that. One of them being Breece Hall, not trusting him. Cam Akers, still running hurt, not trusting him. J.K. Dobbins, probably not going to be ready for the first few weeks, not trusting him. The dead zone's back. There's no reason to go running backs in rounds 4 through 8 at this point. Once 7 through 9 hit, the only guys I do like, I know I'm going long on this question, but it's a great one, and it covers a lot of key points here. I do like Dameon Pierce and Chase Edmonds a lot. They're starting to go around 7-ish, maybe even around 6. Once like St. Brown's off the board. So if St. Brown's still sitting there, not taking any running backs over him. So I like going Gabe Davis, St. Brown, Allen Robinson, Cortland Sutton, like all those guys in round 4. Maybe Judy. I don't love Judy. Brandon Cooks, love him, right? Those guys are amazing. So I'm not touching the running backs. Before, where they could have contended, after this preseason, it's clear the dead zone is still here. Even the names look a little sexier. After that, though, Edmonds and Pierce, maybe Gibson. Now that Robinson's a bit sketchier, he could end up being. People are going to get bailed out for getting him real cheap, depending on how long Robinson's out. He could be a guy. Not touching Jacobs, though. There's a classic dead zone guys in there still. So yeah, long-winded response, but once that kind of tier is, I really like the running backs from like 7 through 10. Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Harris scoring 15 touchdowns, going around 10. Like, come on, great value. There's a lot of guys in there. Singletary, number 2 running back in fantasy down the stretch. Rashad Penny, number 1 running back down the stretch last year, all going in that 8 to 10 range. So the way I approach it is I'm getting my 2 guys early, round 1 and 2, so I don't even have to think about it. And I can just hammer the beautiful receivers, and I'll dip right back into the running back pool in late 6, early 7 through 10 and get a couple of those guys. Hopefully that was helpful. I know it's a long-winded response. Not necessarily a dollar amount. You got to get your guys. If a guy's going for like $6 more than I project him, I kind of cut it off, say, okay. But it all depends on the stage of the draft, Eric, and all that good stuff. Rate my team. I don't have enough time to do that, Jared. Feel free to DM me. I'll check it out. Rating teams is tough, though. It's too much time. I'll take it up here. Super chat me, and I'll rate it. How about that? Otherwise, it takes too much time and not enough info for other people. Love podcast. Thanks, Rushman. I know it. I'm glad we found you. If nothing else, an early Friday morning podcast gets us a good, loyal fan like you. All about it. Good stuff. Henderson did good things, but every time, yeah, and that's true too. Some players, when you need them the most, that's McCaffrey for me this year. Had him 2 years in a row. I'm not going back. I don't care how. I mean, yeah, okay, fine. Pick 12 if he falls to me. Pick 5 even. I'll take him. But top 2, nope, not doing it. I had the second pick in the draft. I took Cup over him. Not doing it. Guys just don't play for you sometimes, I get that. I totally get it. What is a realistic ceiling for Njoku? I think the ceilings for everybody are significantly lower, but Njoku might be the one guy that actually benefits. Remember, 30% target share, Brissett over these last 3 years to tight ends. Still, I think it's pretty gross overall. It's not a guy I'm sprinting to get hooked up with is Brissett. I'd say 608 would be like the ceiling. And that's a good year. I mean, that's a really good year. We'll see. Jay, all 3 this weekend. What a weekend. There's nothing better. I'm 100% with you. Fantasy football drafts are the best. I'm 1,010% with you, Jay Young. Once the season hits, there's just a buzz in the air. Then next week, you got Bills and the Rams coming up on Thursday. It's just like, yes, let's go. We're here, baby. We are here. Draft weekend, the best. I would also highly recommend, speaking of drafts, I don't like to plug this without a good segue, but why not plug it? If you haven't already, Underdog Fantasy, best ball drafts. All you do is draft, and then they calculate your highest scoring lineup every week, best ball fantasy drafting. They have a $25 tournament where you can win $2 million if you take the whole thing down. It's almost filled. It's like 87% filled. At this point, it's going to fill probably over the weekend. If you haven't played, check out Underdog Fantasy. Use code RSJ. You'll get up to $100 matched. That's 4 entries into that said contest. Truly the funnest way to draft, in my opinion. And we get a nice little kickback. It's another way, whether you bought the guide or not, another way to show support would be signing up for Underdog, using code RSJ, get that $100 match. It's the best. I'm so addicted to it. I've done so many drafts. I'll do a couple live probably between now and the end of the tournament, but it's great. It's absolutely great. Draft went well. Nice, Gary. CMC, Kelsey, Jones. See, I know the other guy didn't really rate his team. I'm not going to do it for you, but I like it a lot. Brown, Williams, Cooks, Robinson. I mean, that's a loaded core to have Kelsey, those 2 running backs, and those good receivers. Great team. Very good stuff. I only have 3 receivers. So they're a middle type receiver. You think will bust out. I can trade one of the backs for. I get St. Brown. Keep bringing them up. A-Rob, St. Brown, Gabe Davis, the guys that I are absolutely hammering. Thank you again, Gary. Show on Thursday night. I can't wait. Me and Drew will definitely be firing those up. We always tip a few back too. So yeah, Gary, so excited for the season. So excited to have you back, man. It is so greatly appreciated. Wolfpack, on that note, if you are not already, that was the last question. Jared, you're still here with me. If you're still here, I'll give it to you. Love Josh Allen, Chase Higgins, Mooney. I mean, good stuff. 10-man teams, obviously, you have to take it with a grain of salt, but Allen, that's the type of edge I look for in a 10-man league, is getting that Allen, getting a nice tight end edge. Waller could be that if he gets healthy. Mixon, it's just a running back. Mixon, Akers. Don't love your backs. I do love Pierce. Don't love Akers. Hate Sanders. So in a 10-team league, I'd love to see better backs here. I like your bench stab with Madison, but I want to see better running backs in a 10-teamer. I don't like Burks either. I think Gallup's a nice play for later in the season. Stash him in your IR. I don't love it, though. I'd want to see more on a 10-teamer. So I'm giving it like a C-. I think C, because you do have some really good talent. And if Pierce hits like I think he could, then this team could really vault up. You have the Allen edge. But, I like the receivers. Maybe C is a little too harsh. But that's where I put it. It's like a nice average team. It's not one that makes me excited, so I don't usually give – I'm a hard grader. I'll tell you that. I'm a pretty hard grader. Rude. It's just not my favorite team, man. I'm sorry. If I sat here and kissed everyone's ass and said A's for A's for A's, everybody gets an A, what value does that bring either, Thank you. Cheers to you, Gary. Oh, well, here comes the end stream. So, Rush, I'm going to promote everything no, it's great. You're a little late to the party, but we're just getting it going. More and more people are finding us. We love it. The site is rotostreetjournal.com. rotostreetjournal.com. We feed you fantasy wolves. rotostreetjournal.com/bigboards. All my rankings. I update it daily. So you can always check that out. If you want my actual auction values, projections, all that, that's the one thing we do put behind a paywall. $20 for all that. rotostreetjournal.com/draft-guide. I think it's the best guide in the game. I don't think you'll ever feel like you overpaid for $20, but if you do, you can send me a DM and I'll refund you whatever. Like $20 is too much for what I provided there. If you don't think it's enough, then fine. I'll refund you. I'm not going to ask questions. So check that out if you haven't already. But rotostreetjournal.com, we have so many great talented writers to it, hitting quick hits on single players, hitting big strategy pieces. I think we're doing, it's tough because it's not our full-time gigs for any of us, but I think we're doing some of the best stuff in the business. Rush, man, we do have a weekly show schedule once the regular season hits as well. Thursday and Sunday starts no matter what. I'll do a Tuesday waiver wire show. We have a couple new guys probably doing a betting show, which I love. I used to do a Monday night football show. I might have to cut one this year because it was a lot last year. It was a lot, but who knows? We'll see. But yes, alrighty, guys. Yeah, 20. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate any support that you guys have. It does help us bring it to the next level. The site is starting to take off. It's great stuff. So again, rotostreetjournal.com. You can find our home base, all our good stuff. And I am at RotoStreetWolf on Twitter. You can always hit me up there. I do keep the DMs exclusive to people that are willing to buy the guide and support it, but I'm also happy to answer questions for anybody that's willing to support the site. I'm happy to go support you guys as well and help your fantasy teams. All righty, guys. Well, thank you again so much. I'll probably be live at least once this weekend to do the classic baked best ball, get a little high, do a draft, and answer your questions. That's a good free flowy Q&A while I do a draft type of show. So be on the lookout for that this weekend. I don't know what time it will happen, but we'll do that. I know it's draft weekend, so I want to be available for some questions live at some point for you. Awesome. Other than that, guys, enjoy hopefully a long weekend for most of you. And a wolf of fantasy sheep. Be the wolf, guys. Later.